Hi. Yeah, I just got out of the shower, so I'm kind of a mess. Um, I'm okay, first of all. To say I'm not depressed or I am depressed is odd to me. Because most of my life I've been depressed or not depressed, or maybe neither. But I'm okay. Right now, I'm alright, I promise. Um, I wanted to talk to you all about something. I started to tell you a story the other day in one of the videos, I think, and I didn't finish it, or I... So how did I come to be? My birth mother was kind of an addict back in the 60s and had a lot of kids. She lost most of them. She abandoned several of them. She's dead now. She died last year, 2007, 16 or 17, I don't know. We weren't close. I never really got to know her well. I found my birth family actually when I was 30 years old. My whole life, my entire life, I always dreamed that there was this family out there that really loved me. That I had a dad somewhere that would be proud of me, that I would have a mother that would protect me. I think a lot of adopted kids have similar kind of experiences, except most have families that adopted them, I think, that love them and they love back. That's perhaps another whole story. But anyway, I had always imagined finding my birth family. And I heard rumors from my adopted mother that there were siblings, maybe a lot of them. Well, I searched. I went, and I got real good at searching, by the way. This was before Ancestry or 123Me, those kind of things where you can do DNA testing that just didn't exist. So you had to go through public records, through marriage records and birth records and hospital records when you could get them. Now I was lucky in one respect. I was never legally adopted. My birth mother had given me to her friend, a druggie, who took me home for welfare. I don't know if I told you that story or not, but it doesn't matter. And the lady who raised me, the lady I consider my mother, she's the only mother I ever knew, really. She and her husband, the man who raised me as my father, the two of them paid this woman, the friend of my birth mother, to pretty much buy me. My father had a record. He was a drunk driver from the time he was a young man. He was a severe alcoholic from a young age. Why my mother married him, I can only imagine. She had come out of an abusive relationship, and he treated her well at first, and so I guess she thought he was the man for her, and he turned out not to be the man for anyone. Not a father, not a... Okay, so I'm getting kind of off topic here. Well, so because I wasn't legally adopted, I was able to find records that weren't available to a lot of people who are adopted because records are sealed, but I was never really adopted. But my problem was that my birth mother put a false name on my birth certificate as my father. It was her drug addict friend's husband, and they put his name on it thinking they could get welfare by taking me home. Okay, so there's that. So my adopted parents took me from California, from Los Angeles, where I was born. They lived in the Bay Area, but they took me to Oklahoma, where my adopted mother was actually born, and she knew some people. And she had a doctor create a false birth certificate, a delayed birth certificate. If you don't know what that is, people in rural areas sometimes didn't go to doctors, couldn't go to doctors when they had a child. So when they eventually made it to a doctor or to even a public servant, it varied depending on the year, they could get what was known as a delayed birth certificate, where you simply brought a witness with you, and the witness said, yep, I saw her have the baby, and they'd write up a birth certificate, and that was that. And that's what happened. There's one problem with that. When the time came for me to get a job as a young man, I worked for my parents for a period of time until I ran away at 14. And that worked okay because they took care of the taxes, or so I thought, and everything. Well, as I told you, I ran away. Well, the first time I tried to get a job, I needed a Social Security number. The Social Security number that I grew up with was made up. My parents, my adopted parents, never got a real birth certificate. They got the false one that they got in Oklahoma. They did have my real one, by the way, hidden away. I didn't see it until I was an adult, but they had this false birth certificate, and they were afraid to get a Social Security number, afraid that they would lose me, or this is the story I was told, right? Well, at 14, as I said, I applied for a job, and I needed a Social Security number. The number that I had, that I grew up with, that I thought was mine, I gave to them, and it pulled up the name of someone else, a person 5 years older than me, actually, a woman, no less. And I had to get a Social Security number, right? Well, long story longer, my mother, my adopted mother, sent me to California. Now remember, I ran away, right? I told her I was okay. That's what she cared about. She did seem to care, and I believe she did. I believe she loved me, but I think she thought I was better off being a runaway than I was there with my father. And she didn't have the guts to leave my father. It was easier for her to let her kid take off than it was to leave this man. But she always said to me that if I ever leave him, he will kill me. And I think she believed that. And as I've told you about my childhood, people talking about killing each other was part of my DNA. I tried to kill my father when I was a little boy. I'll tell you this story. This wasn't part of what I was going to tell you, but it's worth telling you. I have to tell someone, right? It was about... this was after my father came back from prison. He was gone for 2 years, from the time I was around 5 to the time I was around 7, somewhere in there. And he and my uncle, my adopted mother's sister's husband, I know this is getting complicated, I apologize, my Uncle Warren, who I loved and adored and still do in my heart. He was such a dear man, and he loved me, but I didn't get to spend as much time with him as I would have liked to and his family. But so my mother sent me a copy of my real birth certificate to California. She mailed it to me, where I was able to get my birth certificate, get my Social Security card, and long story. Okay. So jump forward to when I'm 30 years old. I searched and searched trying to find my family. Oh, killing my father. I was going to tell you that story. I'm sorry, let me backtrack. This is how my mind works. I apologize. When my father came home after being in prison, he was home about a week, and he hurt my mom. Bad. What I remember was me down on the floor crying and begging while he banged her head into the cabinets in the kitchen and her screaming and blood running down her face. One of many times I saw my mother bleed. She lost her teeth. My mother had dentures in her 30s because of my father. That's the kind of abuser he was. So when he came home, he was home about 2 weeks. And he and my uncle, Warren, who I loved, and his son my age, and the next boy up, who was about 5 years older, went to this place we went to. It was up in the woods, and it was over a cliff of about 100 feet. Not real high, but high enough you don't want to fall off. My father and my Uncle Warren were standing smoking cigarettes. Yeah, people used to do that around kids. They were standing at the edge of this cliff, and we kids were behind them, afraid to go too close, or the other kids weren't. I really wasn't afraid of heights. Go figure, I was afraid of everything else, but not of things that could really kill me, just things I thought could. They're standing there, and my father says to my uncle, well, if someone fell off here, they'd never be seen again. I didn't take that as meaning death exactly, but I loved the sound of it, and with all of my strength and as fast as I could run, I ran it behind my father and slammed my hands into his back. He was much bigger and stronger than I was as a little kid. He caught himself, and he turned around, and with his fist he punched me in the face and broke my nose. I have a dent in my forehead where he knocked me into a rock. The dent still is there. I don't know if you can see it here or not. It's right there. One of the mini scars, and it's sort of why I wear my hair longer, because anyway, people ask, oh, you have a dent in your head, right? So I grow the hair long and they go, oh, you have funny hair. There's no winning. Okay, so that's when I tried to kill my father, but I did. But in the one, I can tell you that I didn't really think it was death, that he would die. I didn't really get death then. No one in my life had died at that stage in my life, so I didn't really get it. But I just thought he'd be gone. He'd be out of our lives forever. Didn't work. Okay, so, all right, now, jump forward to 30 years old. And I had searched. I had found all kinds of records. I had done everything I could to try to find my birth family. So I reached out to the Oprah show. Oprah was big, but she wasn't as big back then. But she had done a show or two. She'd done several shows on bringing adoptees back with their natural families. So I thought, why not write them? Well, I wrote them. And they couldn't help me. Not sure why. I didn't have enough information. I don't know. But they wouldn't help me or couldn't help me. But what they did do is they gave me the name of a man. So I mailed this man, I think it was $250, and within an hour he called me back with my birth mother's phone number. So I called her, and here I am at 30 years old calling my birth mother for the first time, not knowing what to expect from her. And they kind of gave me an idea of what to say. And what's funny is by then I'd helped other people find their birth families. While I was doing all this searching, I met a lot of other people searching, and I helped dozens of people find their parents and their siblings, and it was just marvelous to be able to do that. But I was kind of like in The Wizard of Oz when Dorothy says, I don't think there's anything in that little black bag for me. That's kind of how I felt. Then this guy calls back, and here's the phone number for my birth mother. I called her, and they give it. I knew sort of that I had some tips and ideas on what to say, and I just said, does the date of, I gave her my birth date and year, mean anything to you? And it didn't. And I thought, oh, it's the wrong lady, the wrong person. And then she says, wait. These are her words. Who the hell are you? I apologize for cursing. I'm just repeating what she said. And I said, gave her my name. The name that was on my birth certificate. Then she knew who I was. She wasn't excited to talk to me. I think she was hidden away near Palm Springs, California, but way out in the desert. Actually, closer to 29 Palms, California. There's a base there, a military base there. Anyway, she was out in the middle of the desert, hidden away, and I think she was hiding from her children. She didn't want them to find her. And I found her. So, I did actually fly out with my adopted mother and my lover at the time. We went out there, and we met her and my siblings, a few of my siblings. But what I wanted to tell you is when I first met her, this goes right along with all the loving things that have happened to me throughout my life. I walk up to her to hug her. My mother told me to. My adopted mother said hug her because she's probably feeling guilty and bad, blah, blah. So I did. I walked up to hug her, and she said in my ear, these are the first words she says to me when she sees me. You're not going to get this place. This is for Leo. It's already promised to him. First of all, I'm sorry, but she lived in kind of a dump. Okay, I wasn't a dump. It's because I have bad feelings about this woman that I would call that. She didn't live in a dump, but I didn't want it. I had no desire for it. Anyway, that was my first experience with her, was her telling me I'm not going to get to her house. Like I'd come out from Texas to her desert home to take it from her, or that I expected something from her. And that's sort of the foundation for our entire meeting and for the rest of the time I knew her before she died, just a few years ago. So over 20-something years, I knew her. I talked to her on the phone on a rare occasion. Maybe my adopted mother would make me call her on Mother's Day. And I was like, ew, no, I'll call her at Thanksgiving or something, and that's what I would do. Anyway, over the years, it never got better. She would call me and I wouldn't call her. I didn't really want to talk to her, and I didn't want to have a relationship with her. I just didn't. But at one point she calls me and she says to me, this is the kind of person she was. If you don't want to talk to me, to hell with you. She said that. This is how she was. And it's like, okay. And I just left it. I didn't have a comeback, no pithy comments or anything. I just let it go. Why do I tell you all of this? I have no family. The people who raised me are dead. Their cousins and siblings, most of them are dead. There are a few that are alive that I don't really know very well, and they're nowhere near here. My birth family, my oldest brother that's still living died, died just a few months ago, actually. I did that while here on YouTube. I talked about that. He passed. And I still have a brother left, the youngest brother, the one that she raised, but we're not close. We just never really got to know each other and just aren't close. And he's there in the Palm Springs area, and I'm here in Texas, right? So I don't have family. I have my best friend Caroline. She's in Idaho, and we've always been long distance friends. I've been there to visit her a few times and loved it. I adore her and her whole family. They're beautiful, wonderful people, but they're in Idaho and I'm in Texas. So why do I tell you all this? Because you're the closest thing to a family that I have. You out there in the dark. And I'm not trying to put any kind of trip on anybody. I love this, and if YouTube disappeared tomorrow, I'm not saying that I would be woe is me and the world would be over. No. But I want to thank you all. That's what this video is, and I should have said this from the beginning. It's a thank you to you all for everything, for what you've given me. It's been a real gift. The kind words, the lack of judgment. We're different. I know that I'm different than many of you. I can tell this from posts that I've seen, from letters that I've got. People have mailed me letters. People have emailed me. I appreciate you so much. I really do. This has meant the world to me, being able to have you here to comment on my videos, to be friends. And I do consider some of you friends. I love seeing your messages. I love going and seeing your videos and hearing about you and reading about you. And that's all. Listen, I'm not going to let this go on anymore tonight. I have more of these. I've got 1,000 stories like that, and some are happy, some are funny, some are sad, some are tragic, some are just pathetic, and some I will never tell. But thank you again, and have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.